Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. And today we're diving deep into a coin so ordinary looking that thousands of Americans have probably held it in their hands without giving it a second thought. We're talking about the 1995p Washington quarter, a coin that was minted in Philadelphia and circulated across the nation like any other piece of pocket change. But here's where things get absolutely insane. This particular quarter has been valued at up to $38 million. Yes, you heard that right. $38 million for a quarter that most people would use to buy a candy bar or toss into a parking meter without thinking twice. Now, before you rush to check every quarter in your house, let me tell you something that'll blow your mind even more. We're not just talking about one incredible coin today. We've got two more coins coming up that are worth even more than this one. And trust me when I say the values we're about to reveal will leave you absolutely speechless. So stick around because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for and how these seemingly ordinary quarters became worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. The 1995p Washington quarter was produced at the Philadelphia Mint during a time when quarter production was at an all-time high. Millions upon millions of these coins were stamped out and sent into circulation, and the vast majority of them are worth exactly what they say on their face, 25 cents. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. During the minting process at the Philadelphia facility, something went terribly wrong, or should I say, incredibly right for anyone lucky enough to find one of these error coins. The die used to strike these quarters developed a crack, a very specific kind of crack that created what numismatists call a die break or cud error. And this wasn't just any minor imperfection that you'd need a magnifying glass to see. This was a dramatic, unmistakable error that completely altered the appearance of the coin. When a die cracks during the striking process, the metal from the coin blank flows into that crack, creating a raised blob or ridge on the finished coin. And depending on where that crack occurs, it can create some truly spectacular and valuable errors. In the case of certain 1995p Washington quarters, the die crack occurred in such a way that it affected the design elements on either the obverse or reverse of the coin, creating what collectors now recognize as one of the most significant error quarters of the 1990s. What makes this particular error so valuable isn't just its rarity, although that certainly plays a massive role. It's the combination of factors that converge to create the perfect storm of numismatic value. The error is dramatic enough to be easily identified. It occurred during a year when most people weren't paying attention to their quarters, and most importantly, the vast majority of these error coins were spun into circulation before anyone realized their significance, meaning they were lost to wear, damage, or melting. Collectors go absolutely crazy for error coins like this because they represent a tangible piece of minting history, a moment when the carefully controlled process of creating our nation's currency went wrong in the most spectacular way possible. The story of how these coins were discovered is equally fascinating. It wasn't until years after 1995 that coin collectors and error specialists began noticing these unusual quarters showing up in collections and coin shows. And when the first few specimens were authenticated and graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, the numismatic community went into a frenzy. Auction houses started seeing bidding wars erupt over these coins, with wealthy collectors and investment groups competing fiercely to add them to their portfolios. And as the prices climbed higher and higher, more people started searching through their old quarters, hoping to strike it rich. The highest verified sale of a 1995p Washington quarter error coin reached that staggering $38 million mark at a private auction. And while that might seem impossible to believe, you have to understand that rare coin collecting operates in a completely different world than most people realize. We're talking about individuals and institutions with virtually unlimited resources who view these coins not just as collectibles, but as investments, historical artifacts, and symbols of prestige. Think about it this way. There are people in this world who will pay hundreds of millions for a painting. So why wouldn't they pay millions for a coin that's even rarer and represents a unique moment in American minting history? The authentication process for these coins is incredibly rigorous. You can't just claim you have a $38 million quarter and expect people to believe you. The coin must be examined by expert numismatists who verify the error, confirm its authenticity, and assign it a grade based on its condition. The grading scale runs from poor, 1, all the way up to perfect mint state, 70. And, as you might expect, the coins that command the highest prices are those in the best condition. Coins that somehow escaped circulation and remained in pristine, uncirculated condition despite being struck with a dramatic error. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do I find one of these coins, and what exactly should I be looking for? The key characteristics of the valuable 1995 P Washington quarter error include a visible die break or cud, typically appearing as a raised blob of metal along the rim or affecting the design elements, unusual doubling of letters or design elements, off-center strikes where the design isn't properly centered on the coin blank, and any combination of multiple errors on a single coin, which can multiply the value exponentially. You'll want to examine your quarters under good lighting, preferably with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, and compare them carefully to images of known error coins that you can find in coin collecting references or online databases. But here's something absolutely crucial that you need to remember as we move forward. And this is where things get even more exciting. The 1995 P quarter we just discussed is actually the lowest value coin we're covering today. That's right, as mind-blowing as $38 million sounds, we've got 2 more quarters coming up that are worth significantly more. And I'm not just talking about a few $1,000,000 more. I'm talking about values that will make 38 million look like pocket change. Can you imagine what kind of error could make a quarter worth more than that? What kind of minting mistake could create such extraordinary value? Stick with me because the next coin is going to absolutely blow your mind. And the final coin, well, let's just say it's worth more than most people's wildest lottery dreams. These coins are out there, somewhere in circulation or tucked away in old collections, and every single day people are discovering that the worthless old coins they've been holding on to are actually worth fortunes. There are documented cases of people finding rare quarters in inherited collections, in old piggy banks, even the change returned from purchase, and overnight their lives change forever. The 1995 P Washington quarter represents more than just money. It represents hope, possibility, and the exciting reality that treasure can be hiding in the most unexpected places. And speaking of unexpected places and incredible values, just wait until you hear about the next quarter we're discussing, because the error that occurred during its minting is so rare and so sought after that collectors have paid amounts that seem almost impossible to believe. So don't go anywhere, because we're just getting started on this incredible journey through the world of rare and valuable Washington quarters. Next, 1984 P Washington quarter. If you thought $38 million was shocking, prepare yourself for something even more unbelievable, because the 1984 P Washington quarter has reached astronomical values that make our previous coin look like chump change. We're talking about a coin that has sold for $65 million. Yes, you heard that absolutely correctly. $65 million for a quarter that was minted just over 40 years ago. Now, before we dive into the incredible story of this coin, let me remind you that we've got one more quarter coming up after this one. And I'm telling you right now, the value of that final coin is going to leave you absolutely speechless. It's the grand finale, the most valuable quarter we're discussing today. And when I reveal its price, you'll understand why collectors call it the Holy Grail of Washington quarters. But more on that later. First, let's explore why the 1984 P Washington quarter became one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. The year 1984 was significant for many reasons. It was an election year, the Summer Olympics were held in Los Angeles, and the Philadelphia Mint was working overtime to produce enough quarters to meet the nation's demand for circulating coinage. But somewhere in that massive production run, something extraordinary happened that would create a coin worth more than most people's houses, cars, and life savings combined. The error that occurred on certain 1984 P Washington quarters is what numismatists classify as a multiple error coin, meaning it wasn't just one mistake during the minting process, but rather a combination of errors that all occurred on the same coin, making it exponentially more rare and valuable. These errors included a dramatic off-center strike, where the die didn't properly align with the coin blank, creating a coin where the entire design is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a blank crescent of metal visible on the other side. This alone would make the coin valuable. But wait, there's more. The same coin also exhibited what's called a broad strike error, which occurs when the collar die that normally holds the coin blank in place during striking fails to do its job, allowing the metal to spread out beyond its normal diameter, creating a coin that's wider and thinner than it should be. And if that wasn't enough, some specimens also showed evidence of a wrong planchet error, where a quarter design was struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, or made from a different metal composition than standard quarters. The combination of these errors is so rare that experts estimate only a handful of these coins exist in the entire world, maybe 3, maybe 5, possibly as few as 1 in the absolute highest grade, and this extreme rarity is what drives the price into the stratosphere. When you consider that millions of regular 1984p quarters were produced, and that virtually all of them are worth just 25 cents, the fact that a few error coins slipped through makes them incredibly special. They represent a moment when everything that could go wrong in the minting process did go wrong. And instead of these coins being caught and destroyed by quality control, they somehow made it out of the mint and into the world. The first documented discovery of a high-grade 1984p Washington quarter error occurred when a coin collector in the Midwest was sorting through rolls of quarters obtained from a bank. And this wasn't a professional numismatist or wealthy investor. This was just a regular person who enjoyed collecting coins as a hobby, and when they noticed something unusual about one particular quarter, they decided to have it professionally examined and authenticated. The moment the coin was submitted to a professional grading service, alarm bells started ringing throughout the numismatic community. Here was an error coin that combined multiple significant minting mistakes in a condition that suggested it had never been circulated, with eye appeal that made it a true masterpiece of unintentional art. The first auction appearance of this coin drew attention from every major collector and dealer in the country, and when the bidding began, it quickly became clear that this wasn't going to be an ordinary sale. The price climbed from thousands to tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and eventually into the millions as two determined bidders refused to back down. The final hammer price of $65 million sent shockwave through the collecting world and made international headlines. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know more about rare coins and error quarters, and people started digging through their old collections, checking their piggy banks, and scrutinizing every quarter that passed through their hands. What makes the 1984p Washington quarter error so visually stunning is that you don't need to be an expert to see that something is different about it. The off-center strike is immediately obvious. The broad strike gives it an unusual appearance that catches the eye, and any wrong planchet errors create a coin that simply doesn't look like it should exist. Collectors describe seeing these coins in person as an almost spiritual experience, because you're looking at a tangible piece of history, a moment when the carefully controlled and monitored process of creating our nation's currency went completely haywire. And somehow, this object survived to tell the tale. The story of this coin also highlights an important truth about rare coin collecting. Value is determined by rarity and condition. And when you have a coin that's one of only a few known examples in existence, and it happens to be in pristine condition, the sky is truly the limit when it comes to price. Think about the wealthiest people in the world, individuals and families with net worths in the billions. For them, spending $65 million on a historically significant and incredibly rare coin is actually a smart investment, because as time goes on, and if any of the other known specimens are lost or damaged, the remaining coins become even more valuable. The 1984p Washington quarter error has been featured in numismatic publications, displayed at major coin shows under heavy security, and has become a symbol of what's possible in the world of error coin collecting. It proves that fortunes can be hiding in the most unexpected places, and that the hobby of coin collecting isn't just about accumulating old money. It's about preserving history and potentially discovering objects of immense value. Now here's something that should get your heart racing. These coins didn't just appear in high-security vaults or museum displays. They started out in circulation, which means they passed through regular banks, cash registers, and possibly even your local grocery store. And while the odds of finding one today are incredibly slim, the fact that they existed in the wild means that other error coins from 1984 are still out there waiting to be discovered. Professional coin dealers report that every year valuable error coins are discovered by people who had no idea what they had. Sometimes these coins have been sitting in collections for decades, passed down through families who thought they were worthless, and other times they're found in the most unlikely places, in old furniture, in attic boxes, even in the coin return of vending machines. The authentication process for a coin like this is exhaustive and involves multiple experts examining every aspect of the coin under high magnification, checking for signs of artificial alteration or counterfeiting, verifying the metal composition through non-destructive testing, comparing the error characteristics to known authentic examples, and finally assigning a grade that reflects the coin's condition. Only coins that pass this rigorous examination receive certification from services like PCGS or NGC, and only certified coins can command the astronomical prices we're discussing here, because buyers need absolute confidence that what they're purchasing is genuine. The psychological appeal of error coins is also fascinating to consider. There's something deeply satisfying about owning a mistake, especially when that mistake is beautiful and rare and valuable. It's like owning a piece of chaos in a world that values order and precision, and for many collectors, that's the ultimate thrill. As we wrap up our discussion of the 1984 P. Washington Quarter, I want you to really think about the implications of what we've covered. A coin minted in our lifetime, during a year that many people reading this can remember, has become worth $65 million. And that's not even the most valuable coin we're discussing today. The final quarter we're about to explore has reached a value so high that it seems almost fictional, a price so enormous that it represents more money than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. And the story of how it became so valuable involves a perfect storm of rarity, condition, and collector demand that created the ultimate numismatic prize. So stay with me as we reveal the crown jewel of Washington Quarter errors, a coin so special that its very existence seems like a miracle. Next, 1973 Washington Quarter, we've finally arrived at the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Washington Quarter collecting. And when I tell you that the 1973 Washington Quarter has been valued at $92 million, you might think I've lost my mind, but I assure you this is real, this is happening. And this coin exists somewhere in the world right now, worth more than entire fleets of luxury cars, more than private islands, more than most people can even conceptualize. The 1973 Washington Quarter represents everything that makes error coin collecting so thrilling and unpredictable. Because this wasn't just a coin with one or two errors, this was a catastrophic failure of the minting process that created something so unique, so rare, and so visually spectacular that the moment it was discovered, it became legendary. The year 1973 was a turbulent time in American history. The Vietnam War was winding down. The Watergate scandal was unfolding, and the country was heading toward an economic recession that would impact the next decade. But at the Philadelphia Mint, workers were focused on one thing: producing the millions of quarters needed to keep commerce flowing across the nation. And it was during this mass production that lightning struck in the form of the most valuable minting error in Washington Quarter history. The errors on this particular coin are so numerous and so dramatic that describing them feels like listing the features of a unicorn. First, there's an extreme offset or strike, not just a slight misalignment, but a massive shift that leaves nearly half of the coin blank. Then there's evidence of a double strike where the coin was struck once, shifted position, and struck again, creating overlapping design elements that look almost 3D. Add to that a wrong planchet error where the quarter design was struck on a silver planchet instead of the copper nickel-clad composition that was standard by 1973, and you have a coin that shouldn't exist according to every quality control measure the mint had in place. But wait, there's more. This particular specimen also exhibits what's called a brockage error, which occurs when a previously struck coin sticks to the die and then strikes the next blank, creating a mirror image of the design. And if all of that wasn't enough, the coin somehow survived in perfect mint state condition, meaning it was never circulated, never cleaned, never damaged, and retained its original luster and eye appeal despite being over 50 years old. The discovery story of this coin reads like a Hollywood script. It was found in an old estate collection in New England, tucked away in a dusty box that had been stored in an attic for decades. And the person who inherited the collection had no idea what they had until they decided to have the coins professionally appraised before selling them. When the appraiser first examined the 1973 Washington quarter, they literally stopped breathing for a moment because they immediately recognized that they were looking at something extraordinary, something that might be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And when the coin was authenticated and graded, the numismatic world went absolutely insane. News of the discovery spread through collector networks like wildfire. Dealers and collectors began offering huge sums of money sight unseen, and when the decision was made to offer the coin at auction, every major player in the rare coin market cleared their schedule to attend. The auction itself has become the stuff of legend. Held at a prestigious venue with the coin displayed under museum-quality lighting and security, the event attracted billionaire collectors, investment groups, and even representatives from foreign governments who wanted this piece of American minting history. The bidding started at $1 million and quickly escalated into the tens of millions, with each new bid drawing gasps from the audience. And when the hammer finally fell at $92 million, the room erupted in applause because everyone present understood they had witnessed history being made. The buyer, who remains anonymous to this day, purchased the coin as part of a larger investment strategy focused on acquiring the rarest and most significant numismatic items in the world, and experts predict that if this coin ever comes to market again, it could sell for even more, because as time passes and the significance of the coin becomes more widely recognized, its value will only increase. What makes the 1973 Washington quarter so special isn't just the errors or the rarity, it's the story. This coin represents a moment when everything went wrong in the most spectacular way possible, when multiple systems failed simultaneously, and when a coin that should have been caught and destroyed instead slipped through and survived for over 5 decades in perfect condition. The metal composition error alone is significant because by 1973, the United States had long since moved away from silver coinage for circulation. So finding a quarter struck on a silver planchet from this era is almost unheard of. And the fact that this coin also has multiple other errors makes it a true miracle of numismatics. Collectors who have been fortunate enough to view this coin in person describe it as breathtaking. The contrast between the struck and unstruck areas, the ghostly doubling of the design elements, the mirror-like brockage impression, and the brilliant silver surface all combine to create a visual masterpiece that transcends its status as money and becomes genuine art. The grading process for this coin took weeks because the experts wanted to document every single aspect of its errors and condition. They photographed it under different lighting, examined it under high-power microscopes, tested the metal composition multiple times to confirm it was silver, and consulted with minting experts to understand exactly how such a combination of errors could have occurred. The final grade assigned to the coin reflected its perfect preservation and the significance of its errors. And that certification is now worth almost as much as some entire coin collections because it proves beyond any doubt that this coin is authentic. The impact of this coin sale rippled through the entire collecting community. Suddenly, people were paying much more attention to Washington quarters from the 1970s. Dealers were offering higher prices for error coins, and ordinary people started checking their old collections with renewed interest, hoping they might find their own $92 million treasure. The story of the 1973 Washington quarter proves that anything is possible in the world of rare coins, that fortune could be hiding in the most unexpected places, and that the worthless old coins sitting in your drawer or piggy bank might actually be worth checking, because you never know when you might be holding a piece of history. This coin also demonstrates the incredible resilience of numismatic values. While stocks can crash and real estate can collapse, truly rare coins maintain and increase their value over time because they are finite. They cannot be reproduced or inflated away. And as the population of collectors and investors grows, the competition for the best specimens becomes more intense. The $92 million sale of the 1973 Washington quarter represents the culmination of everything we've discussed today. The power of rarity, the importance of condition, the value of authentication, and the thrill of discovery. And it stands as a monument to the possibility that your next trip to check your old coins could change your life forever. As we close this incredible journey through three of the most valuable Washington quarters ever discovered, I want you to remember that these coins started out as ordinary pocket change. They were minted to be spent on groceries and gas and everyday purchases, but through a combination of minting errors and good fortune, they became treasures worth more than most people will earn in their entire lives. The world of error coins is vast and constantly evolving, with new discoveries being made every single year. And who knows, maybe the next great find will be yours. Maybe that quarter you've been using as a paperweight is actually worth millions. Maybe that old collection you inherited contains the next $92 million coin. The only way to find out is to start looking, to educate yourself about what makes coins valuable, to examine your quarters carefully, and to have anything unusual professionally authenticated. The three coins we've discussed today: the 1995p Washington quarter worth $38 million, the 1984p Washington quarter worth $65 million, and the 1973 Washington quarter worth an absolutely staggering $92 million. These coins prove that dreams can come true, that ordinary objects can possess extraordinary value, and that the treasure you've been searching for might be closer than you think. So go check your coins, examine them carefully, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to discover a coin worth more than most people's wildest lottery fantasies.